Do you ever get bothered by people for wearing that hat?
Of course.
Yeah. What kind of things do they say?
It kind of depends on the person.
Yeah.
If it's a typical white liberal, they're gonna yell profanities at you. They're gonna call you a racist.
Yeah.
It's all degradation is what it comes down to. They want to emotionally degrade your opinion because they can't actually factually defeat your opinion.
Right.
So that's just kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah. So on the extreme left, we have a lot of virtue signaling that poisons the mind. For instance, when they see Donald Trump, let's say something true or factual, because it's coming out of Donald Trump's mouth, there's this need to debunk what he is saying, even if it's an objective truth. And I think that's in itself a form of delusion.
Absolutely. I think it really does. It comes down to a mental disorder. You can always use that old story with the Japanese. I don't know if it's a folklore story or whatever, but the government came to the nearest village and they told them the dam broke and you need to get out. You need to get out immediately. Well, those closest to the danger tended to leave quickest. Those who said that danger was close, but it might not hit them, tended to not leave. So it really comes down to that. Liberals have a mental disorder.
Would you say, you're saying liberals as this blanket statement. Do you think, I'm sure you hold some liberal ideas about what do you feel? Let's go down the list. What do you feel about homosexuality?
Well, I'm a Christian, so when I read the Bible, homosexuality is definitely a sin, and you can take both sides of it. You can take the side that says, I was born this way, and you can't do anything to change this, but there's also the other side, those who have found Jesus Christ, who were once gay, but are now married with kids. We can call them bisexuals, not sure, but there is always the other side of the argument.
And why should we care what the Bible says?
But you do have a really good argument when I use the word liberal. You're correct, they're not liberals anymore. And to call them a liberal would be a compliment.
Yeah, I think classic libertarianism is pretty straightforward, more about just, life, liberty, and being able to build a nest egg and live freely. And I think that's kind of classical liberalism. But I do think the extreme left is still a minority on the left, just like the extreme right wing is a minority on the right. But I think the extreme left is a very, very loud minority, extremely loud.
See, the problem is they're loud is because it comes down to religion. It's why they pamper the Muslims and destroy the Christians. The very select few that we would call actually ultra leftists, to be an ultra left, you have to actually just hate Christians. It means being pro-abortion, killing babies. It means being pro-homosexuals. It means less for families. It means single mothers with child. To be ultra-left really just means I hate Christians.
Okay.
And I want to destroy Christians. But hold on. So the most ultra-left are actually Satanists within the ultra-wealthy. They have a lot of pull because they are ultra wealthy. And when you look at the majority of them, not saying all of them, but the majority of them are Luciferians. They're Satanists, and they're open Satanists.
Are they
from Katy Perry to Miley Cyrus?
Are most self-proclaimed, or do you just think they are?
They openly admit it. I mean,
Because there's very few actual Satanists, right?
Yeah, but when you state you're selling your soul and you love the devil, what else could you possibly mean?
Well, I mean, if someone in your worldview is doing a lot of sinning and they're okay with it, do you think that's them submitting to Satan, or is that them just not viewing the world the same way as you?
Seriously, like there is interviews, and you should do this yourself. You can look it up. They're public information from Miley Cyrus to Katy Perry, all old school to Def Leppard to Van Halen. They will openly admit to Satanism, meaning selling their soul to the devil. And they have admitted this in interviews. Have you seen any of these?
Yeah, I've seen them. So, a question about the devil: why do we think that the devil's bad?
I never said the devil was bad, but the devil represents true freedom. If you understand Luciferianism, meaning Lucifer himself, well, Lucifer's name means the shining light, or the light angel, or whatever. He really just disobeyed God and stated, well, why would you put humans through this?
Right.
And so he had the ultimate freedom and said, I will go against you, God, and I will help the humans. And when you look at God's argument, that is the holy sin. You see, Lucifer fell from grace. I don't know the battle that's going on up there. I mean, I'm not God or the angels, but yeah, Lucifer did come down to assist us. Why? Not sure. I mean, if you read the book of Enoch, they give us mathematics, they give us crafts and tools, all the way from weaponry to defeat the giants. This is before the flood. I mean, this is public information if you read the book of Enoch. So it's interesting sometimes. And when you look at Lucifer himself, we don't know the battle. We only know what the Bible states. I've read the book of Enoch, and the book of Enoch states that these demons came down, they assisted humans, and the first thing they did was they fucked their wives. And they bore children. They had giants. Well, these giants were killing everybody. Well, these angels were like, fuck, what do we do? So they created weaponry for us to defeat the giants. Well, that really wasn't enough either. So the great flood occurred, and that is when life began in the book of Genesis.
Right. And why should we care what the Bible says?
Why shouldn't we?
Well, why do you think the Bible is anything but a book that's been written by humanity?
I said that's a good question. I myself didn't start out as a Bible lover. I myself hated God. I didn't know how God could.
Which one?
There's only one God.
Well,
that's our God.
Well, how do you? Well, you know Islam. They actually worship the same God as you, right?
Absolutely, I understand that.
Yeah, but what about Thor and Apollo? How come you're not following Thor and Apollo?
That's true. That's a good question. I don't believe in idols.
Right.
To believe in Jesus Christ, it's something you have to strive for. It's not easy.
Right, because everything I know about history is that the Bible was written by men who claim to be divinely inspired, right? So why do you believe that they were divinely inspired?
Possibly. Remember, the Bible's been hacked our Bible, the Bible that we read from the King James Version, has been hacked and slashed by the Holy Church from the Roman Catholic Vatican.
Sure.
They fucking destroyed it. There is the book of Enoch. If you read the King James Version, the Bible starts off with book of Genesis. Well, if you read the Bibles from just shy of 1,000 years ago, they have the book of Enoch in there. Well, They took the book of Enoch out. The Catholic Church did. They thought that it might make the demons look like good people. They didn't want that, right? They took it out. Just like they took out, there's another book, but I'll remember it in a little while because I'm a little fucking baked.
Right.
But, it's been hacked and slashed. What makes me a Christian is I never started, I was an atheist. I started off with science because I thought that you could test that. Well, math and science is cool. You can, it works really well for this world. It works really well for what we're in. I don't know what we're in, but we're in something, right? People die and, right? People are born and so there is some form of a creation and some form of an exit. There is an entrance and an exit of this plane, but I didn't. All of this kind of came to me when I was really fucking high in LSD. When I tripped my nuts off, the first argument I had with myself was I was a terrible person. Why was I a terrible person? In fact, I looked upon myself from a third person. There was no other way to explain it. And I was looking at myself and I looked at like all the decisions I ever made in my life, from, stealing from my parents or fucking my girlfriends over all these things. And I didn't see it from my point of view anymore. The point of view where you are going through a situation, you might be riding a bicycle and you're like, this bicycle's great. I was looking through the point of view where I was watching that guy ride the bicycle. And I was analyzing him, but it was me. It was just shy after that, between suicide and I found God. But whatever. I went down that route of math and science, and I started reading the Bible. I started going down that route. Well, I also went and read things of Buddha, like the very first book that was ever created, Book of Sumatra. I read that book, and it was a wonderful book. It was about this kid who was in a village. He was kicked out of his village from his grandparents, and he eventually met a rich merchant, worked for him. He fucked hookers, he did drugs, and he did all these things. And at the end of his road, he came back to his village, and his father said, well, now you're a man. Well, that was the whole test of being the man. It was getting kicked out of the village. Well, there's many of religions, and the two religions that dominate the world are Christianity and the Muslims. When you start reading the Quran and you start reading the Bible, you're like, well, what the fuck? Yeah. They're the same thing with names flipped around. And Muhammad was not a prophet. You see, Jesus Christ did miracles on earth. And when you read the Bible, he cured the blind. He walked on water. He turned water into wine.
How do you know he did that, though?
That was in front of thousands of people. Those are the miracles I was stated. I was in front of thousands.
How do you know it was in front of thousands of people?
Because that's what was written.
I know. So that's the point I'm getting at. It in that, I mean, when people write things and make claims, we don't have any way to test it, and we don't have any corroborating claims of that time. How do we know that those things actually happened and this just wasn't all just story?
Well, that was confirmed in the early 70s of the Black Sea Scrolls.
Yeah, but even if the Black Sea Scrolls say it, it doesn't mean it actually happened. It could be the Black Sea Scrolls could have just been based on the findings of the original Old Testament.
I mean, we could go down the assumption that every single person writing stories in the Bible are just stories and they're lies, but that would be really problematic considering the First Testament and the New Testament.
How so?
Because they're two separate, completely written books. The First Testament is written by like 186 people from over like 2,000 years, which was confirmed by the Dead Sea Scrolls. So we'd have to confirm that they're all liars for some reason. And
not necessarily liars. They could just be storytellers, right? Much like we have many different myths and stories from all around the world.
Possibly, but when the Dead Sea Scrolls were available, it's almost like, it would be like we have the Vietnam Memorial, if that was buried and then 1,000 years from now they dug it up and were like, these fucking people, they're lying. Who the fuck were these people? No one died. It's a Vietnam War.
But I think it's a bit of a false equivocation. I think it's a bit of a false equivocation because the Bible is making miraculous claims, and I think extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. It's different if the Bible was claiming, a guy, was a great fisherman and a great builder, and he really helped humanity. But they're claiming that, he could cure the sick just by will and walk on water, and that there's stories of parting the seas in the Old Testament. It's like these are extraordinary claims, and I don't think one should just believe these claims without any evidence.
So we would have to assume that history would be considered wrong because King Ramses II, when we if you read the book of Genesis, King Ramses II was the Egyptian king, and he ruled Egypt with an iron fist, and he was part of building the pyramids. Well, not only do the Egyptians write about this, but is it written in the Bible? When they had the 7 plagues upon them, this is what made Jews Jews. When they hung the lambs, there's actually a very good movie about this too. But those who slaughtered the lambs above their doors were saved, and those who didn't, their firstborn sons were killed. This is documented in history. The Egyptians really did write down in hieroglyphics that their firstborn sons all died. And they had locusts. And their people got sick. And that is a part of the story where King Ramses runs Moses out into the sea, and he splits the sea.
Right.
And
so
again,
I can get on board with believing like swarms of locusts because insects exist. I can get on board with the Black Plague or some kind of plague hurting civilization. But it's when we get to the things of a person saying whatever they say and then the sea parts for them. This is an extraordinary claim. That's basically magic, right? Another thing I wanted to ask you is how do you know Muhammad isn't the real prophet as opposed to Jesus?
Well, Muhammad didn't do any miracles.
Well, we don't know that we don't really know that Jesus did either, right?
Yeah, Jesus did commit miracles, and that was openly known. It's history. I mean, it's actual history. These were things that happened. Well, I don't know how else to explain it to you, but if you were to look online and find historians who were to talk about the time of Jesus, they would state he did churn water into wine. He did walk on water. Not saying he was a magician, or maybe he was the best magician on planet Earth, like Chris Angel.
Well, that would be more real. That would be more likely, right?
That's actual history. Maybe it would be more likely. I really like your point of view. I like the way you think. You're not definitive. You're a skeptic. I like that. But when you look at the history of Muhammad, he didn't do any miracles. This is open history. And on top of miracles, he was ruled with an iron fist. He personally killed Jews. That's what his job was. Mm-hmm. And then he took holy words almost 800 years after it was written, holy words, and formed it around himself. He was like the Genghis Khan of his generation, except Genghis Khan wrote no book. He did, and he wrote the book around himself. If you were to look at the opposite of the Bible, it would be the Quran. Whereas the Bible openly speaks about love and peace, because I'm true on this. You cannot defeat an enemy with hate. You can only defeat an enemy with love. Because the moment you start hating them, that is when you want to kill them. Thou shalt not kill.
And okay, what about Exodus 21, for instance, in the Bible? So Exodus 21 basically sanctions slavery, humans owning other humans as property.
Absolutely.
And do you think this is morally acceptable?
But you see, I'm not a Jew. I'm a Christian. Right. I believe in Jesus Christ. And there is a difference between the Jews and the Christians. That is the Old Testament, and Exodus does openly allow that. But you see, the masters, and if you read the book of Exodus, the masters have to obey the law of God. And that doesn't mean like what is burned into your mind, like maybe what whites did to blacks, or maybe what the Muslims did to the Spanish. That type of slavery is actually forbidden in the Jewish world. But most in the Jewish world is paying your dues to your family. A lot of the times you became a slave to the Jews was because you owed a debt and you would have to work it off, and you became a slave. But your master could not disobey the laws of God. It's a complete difference. And was slavery sanctioned? Absolutely. Is it still? Probably, more than likely, all across the world.
Right.
Slavery in every form.
So, but Jesus did claim in the New Testament that he has come to fulfill the laws of the prophets, right? And not Absolutely. To abolish them. So, doesn't that mean the laws of the Old Testament stand?
I'm not real educated in that argument.
Okay.
But one thing I do know is there's a big difference between the Jews and the Christians. And the Old Testament and the New Testament are completely different, because the Old Testament is about the struggles of the Jews. The New Testament is about being reborn. To be a Christian really just means you believe in Christ, but you're Jewish. And that's really what it means, if you look down to it. So when Christ came along, Christ did what all the other prophets didn't do, committed no sin. That's the only thing he did. He didn't lie. He never stole. He didn't murder. Didn't cheat. Never intended to hurt anybody.
How do we know Jesus didn't lie kind of in private, like around when no one was watching him, like around some of his friends that knew him? Like, why do we take this all on faith?
Well, because all of his followers were murderers, rapists. You know, the whole works. Everyone that was around him. Now, the hardest argument is this. If you can prove to me that the Bible is lying, well, then obviously there's stuff they haven't told us.
But the burden of proof is not on me, right?
But even if the Bible is lying, it's been hacked and slashed, and the only people who can read the actual Bible are Hebrews, those who can transcript the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think they've been translated to pretty good accuracy. I know there's some discrepancy in what some terms mean sometimes, but I'm interested about. Well, let's. Why don't we touch on a political issue on abortion? Do you think abortion at any stage is immoral?
Absolutely.
And what if I was to tell you that was pretty unscientific?
I wouldn't understand, possibly. See, it's really, for me, thou shalt not kill is an easy thing to understand. And those on the left, those same people who say let's abort kids, are the same people that say let's bring in immigrants, are the same people that say there's too many people on planet Earth. Their ultimate goal is to kill children. It's plain and simple. Okay. And to kill anything. Those on the left who would proclaim that murder is meat would not dare stand in front of a child as it's being ripped apart of its mother at 9 months gestation, alive and breathing, where the doctor has to smash its head with a hammer. Now, you see, these things are immoral. Yeah, and for me to describe it like that should just make you throw up.
So let's clean up the language a bit here. Let's define some terms. What do you think a child or a kid is? Because the way I define that is when it's out of the body of the mother. Because I think to call a fertilized egg a baby or a child is intellectually and scientifically dishonest.
Okay.
And the reason being is because we apply this term child and baby to a thing that we give agency to. And a lot of this has to do with what we can perceive with our born senses, like our touch, what we can see, what we can smell, what we can hear. Once we see that, once the baby is in the world, then we call this a baby. We call it a child. It is now counted on the census. And I would say there's a reason why we call the thing that's being baked a fetus, because we don't give it the same human rights as other things. Now, what I will say is that in my worldview is based around maximizing well-being and in some sense mitigating suffering. So what I want to look at when I'm talking about abortion is I want to look at what is happening in the brain at what stage. And what I've discovered is that at 26 weeks, or even to be safe, 24 weeks, the pain neurons in the brain start delivering pain signals. And for me, that is the point in which the pregnancy becomes a partnership between the fetus and the mother to both work together to get to the birthing stage. And I think anything before that is not in contradiction to my worldview of maximizing well-being. I don't think you're causing suffering by terminating that pregnancy at that point.
Okay, I can see the scientific reasoning behind it, but no matter what we define life at or in what stage, it was still chosen upon the two people to bring in life. And life is started right at the cellular level when it is conceived. And everybody knows that. You don't have to be... There is no other word to describe a human being that would want to take a life away from anything. I mean, it is contradictory to all of humanity. We've had 68 million children killed between 1972's case of Roe versus Wade, all the way now.
Children, are they?
But they are.
But how is a fertilized egg a child? Have you ever seen a photo of one?
Most abortions occur between 3 and 6 months.
Sure.
Well past the heartbeat stage. And
the heartbeat is just the heart is just something that pumps blood. It doesn't do anything besides that.
There is only one circumstance in which a baby, and that means a baby, should be aborted, is if the mother will pass away. And that is what that case was about. Roe versus Wade. That case was about a mother who was going to pass away if she delivered that child. But she needed to abort it. But it was illegal. She fought the Supreme Court for the right for her body. Well, she won. And she aborted that baby and survived. But when you start talking about contraceptives are fucking free, pardon my language, contraceptives are free. We have condoms that are openly available. In fact, you could go to the local Planned Parenthood and they will give you birth control for free. We have a society that states we need to kill babies simply on convenience, not on actual health risk. And if you're going to kill babies on convenience, then what kind of society are we? I'm not against abortion, but if you're going to state that I want to have my child ripped apart of my body simply because I don't want to be a mom, even though you can adopt the child openly and simply, and you didn't need to have the baby to begin with, which probably came down to poor choices. You have scientists attempting to define life, to destroy somebody's idiotic choice. But that child also has a choice.
Right. But I think there is a difference in terms that is going to bring this debate closer. I don't think someone in your position and someone even on the extreme left are as far apart on this as you may think. I think, first of all, I think everyone minus a very tiny minority of psychopaths agree that abortion, no one likes abortion. No one likes it. There's no one that enjoys abortion. Everyone hates the idea, and it's always this thing that no one likes to have happen or do.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
So here's a bizarre story. Now, let's just say you're a good person, and I'm not saying you are bad or not, but let's just say you're a regular good person. You're stupid. You don't know anything. You knock a chick up, right? But you're like, oh my God, I want to have this kid. She knows she's pregnant, whatever. And he says, I want to have this kid no matter what. I love you, baby. Maybe she doesn't want to be with him, whatever, but he still wants to have that kid.
Mm-hmm.
Now she aborts that kid. What right does that father have?
Well, I mean, I think it's because women are these freaks of nature with this certain aspect to their biology that allows them to bake children, right? They have the womb, they have the reproductive system for that. And the male reproductive system seems to be a lot less complex. We don't have to deal with periods. We don't have to deal with all of the stuff that women have to deal with. They have a lot going on. So I would say by simple luck of evolution and our biology, women have the right to make that decision before, in my worldview, the 24-week mark, because of the simple fact that they had, however you look at it, the unluckiness or the luckiness to be born with this kind of biology where they are connected to the thing that is growing within them.
Well, it's not a thing, it's life.
Well, I mean, it is some form of life. I will agree with that when it starts.
It's not some form of life. Two people tangoed. They chose to do it. But it's not my choice if they want to sin. See, that's the problem.
Yeah, but not everyone agrees with you that sin is even something that should matter, right?
Sin matters, and it will weigh heavy on your soul later on if you fuck up.
Like what? Like how? Like it'll send you to hell or something?
No, it's not about sending anyone to hell, because we can all be forgiven for our sins. Remember, there's nothing new underneath the sun. We've all felt the same things. There's no such thing as a new emotion. You see, our predecessors, they felt anger and happiness and jealousy, just like we did.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to choose what they wanted to do with it. That's really what the Bible's about. And when you sin, it weighs heavy on your soul.
I don't even think the soul exists.
That is an easy thing to prove. Very
How
easy
so?
thing to prove.
Because science, it hasn't been proven scientifically.
Doesn't need to be. Why aren't you killing anybody?
Why aren't I killing anybody? Because it's against my moral system. And my moral system's based on well-being, and I get that moral system from acting on others like I want to be acted on myself.
Because you have a soul.
Yeah, but that's not. You haven't.
If you didn't have a soul, buddy, you would have no feelings. You feel. You have a soul.
But can you demonstrate that claim?
I don't have to demonstrate the soul.
Yeah, but the scientific community that we rely on to develop medicine, to develop the best technologies that help humanity,
The scientific community can't judge weather. They don't know how big space is.
Well, that's a difficult question.
You know, they have done there's a lot of things science can't answer.
Like
for an example, they stated that there's a Big Bang. Well, because they stated there's a Big Bang, it means there's a beginning. If there's a beginning, there's an end. That states in science. So
if there's a beginning, there's an end. Not necessarily.
Yes.
I don't agree with that claim.
You don't have to agree. That's philosophy. I don't really like philosophy either.
Yeah, but it's like if something begins to exist, it doesn't necessarily have to have an end. What that does mean is that there's typically a cause for that. There's no uncaused cause essentially that we know of. But I would never make the claim that couldn't be possible. But this is kind of what we've seen so far. So the Big Bang was caused by something, and we do this by measuring all the matter back to a single point.
No. They did it in a simple thing, because everything radiates, right?
What do you mean by that? Radiates?
There is a natural radiation on everything. I'm not a scientist. I'm not claiming to be really smart, but I've read this. It's an argument that is real minute. It's what determined the fact that the Big Bang was started and thus must have an end. It is just 1 and 2, X and Y. It's black and white. It's just yin and yang. That's just the philosophy that I remember reading. And so everything radiates from what I'm looking at, from wood to steel to everything has a radiation to it. So what they did is they're like, okay, they calculated the radiation of things, right? Well, they went out as far as they could to the radiation belt outside of Earth. Well, the radiation belt, from what they discovered, was like just outside the line of the sun, where the sun hits it, but it bounces off. So they knew maybe where the sun started. So they started looking into the radiation there, and they realized the radiation there was the same as it was on Earth. So they're like, well, everything was started at once. It was the simplest thing as that.
Yeah, it's actually not about measuring radiation. How they really tell where the Big Bang started and giving an age to the cosmos is just by measuring, like we can see matter moving away. Everything's moving away at a very rapid rate from a single point. When we actually measure that back using math, we measure it back to a single point that is mathematically infinitely dense. So that's kind of what the math tells us based on just measuring how things are moving away from the single point, from the blast.
But remember, they haven't found dark matter yet. So
sure, and that's a very interesting question that's being worked on by the scientific community. But let me ask you this: like you throw in your lot with science on basically everything in your life, through the clothes you wear, the computers you use, through the planes you fly in, through the automobiles that you travel in. But for some reason, on like the issue of God, or like in the example I gave for abortion, you choose to not accept what the scientific consensus is on that.
Well, that depends if the scientific consensus is only defining the matrix.
Well,
science is only good at one thing, and that is this reality. They can only prove certain things in this reality.
And is there another reality? Is there a different reality?
Well, here, if science cannot prove everything, then you must admit that either science is A, wrong, or B, they don't know everything. So if science doesn't know everything, then what's the argument?
Well, science is just the tool, right? Like we input evidence into a scientific model, and then it gives us a theory about reality, right?
Yeah.
So that's what the scientific tool is. But if you're going to claim that there is another reality outside of the one that we can derive evidence from and test in science, then you would have to demonstrate that, right? Because it just doesn't become true if someone just claims it.
We demonstrate it all the time with quantum physics.
Yeah, but that's part of the reality. Like science, we can look and study quantum physics.
Literally, quantum physics, they actually have realities within realities within realities. I mean, it goes exponential.
Well, I mean, but that's all within the evidence of reality. Like if we can test it within this reality, we haven't discovered a new reality outside of the one that we live in. What we've discovered are new levels of looking at this reality because, we've been able to look deeper into the microscopic, the very small, like at the subatomic level, right?
Yep.
And I would suggest that that's not another reality. That's just part of the reality that we can derive evidence from.
What state do you live in? You're freaking awesome.
I'm from Canada.
You're from Canada, that's right. Fuck, I forgot. Fucking too baked. You recording this too?
What's that?
You recording this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Of course.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love having these conversations.
I love good conversations with you.
Yeah.
And have you ever taken LSD?
No, and this is a often question I get asked by
Because
believers in something
it's so
supernatural.
bizarre. Because when you actually don't have words to describe how you feel, and it was the moment that I realized I used to be a I used to be a really hateful person.
Hmm.
So when I was 17, I went through a divorce when I was 18.
Wow.
I, I was a fucking idiot. Okay, I had a kid with a black chick, right? Boom, whatever. I decided I wanted to marry her because whatever. Well, kind of went south. Well, whatever. So during my stupor, I decided to like shit ton of drugs
Hmm.
but I didn't do crazy things like meth, heroin, or cocaine. I
Right.
stayed away from that. I did shrooms, LSD, smoked a lot of weed, and I went on my little journey.
You did the
And
hippie drugs.
basically, yeah. Well, and I went on my little journey. Well, the weirdest thing about it is you can't describe. LSD is probably the most profound, impactful thing I've ever had on my life because it took me as a terrible person. It ripped my soul outside. That's the only way I can describe it. Ripped my soul outside, brought me outside. I was watching myself from third person, and I was like, "Whoa, I'm a bad, bad man. Like I shouldn't be doing those things." You're not seeing the situation like I did this to Lucy because she cheated on me. You look at yourself, you're like, you're trying to get back at her because you're jealous. It is a profound understanding of yourself because when you grasp that certain aspect, when you're like, everything that has ever been taught to me is fucking wrong, and I have to reteach myself. When you reach that stage, it is a real weird stage to kind of be in.
So it sounds like you were lacking some kind of like deep self-awareness in yourself, and the LSD offered that to you.
You have I'm telling you, just if you got an opportunity, one time in your life, but stay away from the shitty LSD, the crappy shit.
Mm.
You want real shit. If it touches your tongue and it tastes like metallic, it's a good shit.
So, but do you think those experiences can happen outside of psychedelics? For instance, I'm a musician,
Well,
and I've had some while performing, I've had some of these experiences where they almost, I could describe them as kind of out of body, or where I'm just on this weird autopilot where I can be somewhere else, like thinking about multitude of different things, but I'm also doing something very complicated with my musical instrument. And this, when I do this, this is very therapeutic and self-reflecting as well. And when people describe these experiences, basically what the difference is, I think, is that I am in control of the experience that I'm having with my musical instrument, which maybe tells me that maybe feeling not in control, like being on a psychedelic, may lend me to more of a freeing experience.
that's crazy. I mean, this is really cool to understand your point of view because I did a lot of drugs, and it seems like you haven't. So,
Yeah, I haven't done. I mean,
have you smoked any weed?
drunk a lot of alcohol. Yeah, I've smoked weed in my life. Outside of that, I don't think I've done anything else, to be honest.
Have you ever read the Bible?
Yeah, oh yeah, I've read the Bible a multitude of times. I've studied it. I actually debate on the topic of religion a lot in my career, and I'm writing a lot about it as well. But actually, I'll give you my YouTube channel link here, just so you can see what I'm all about. My whole worldview is based around skepticism, and that's who that's really who I am, and that's what I write about a lot. And I believe a solid foundation of skepticism is actually the cure for humanity that we've all been searching for the things that we have difficulty with. Oh, sorry, I miswrote that. .com/.
That's awesome.
Do you think you could be wrong about Jesus and your religious convictions?
Nope.
So would you say you're 100% certain that Jesus is your savior?
Yeah, you have no idea. So if I must, I'm gonna tell you a story.
Sure.
That happened to me. I'm not saying this is how everyone finds Jesus, but when I was at my wit's end, kind of going through divorce, whatever, I was fucked up on drugs, from Xanax to Adderall, lots of that shit, hydrocodones, lots of that shit. Well, I wanted to die. Okay, that was the main objective, but I didn't know why I was suicidal or any of those dumb things. But the most bizarre thing I could ever fucking imagine. Like I said, I was an atheist, and one day I was gonna jump off the ledge. There's a park towards me, and it has about an 800-foot cliff. You go off it. People have committed suicide there. That's kind of the place to go because it's a pretty easy climb. You just right off the fucking cliff. Whatever. Well, I was gonna go there to fucking kill myself. Well, I was smoking a shit ton of weed, fucking popping Xanax. I was ready. And I got out of my cobalt, and I walk just out of my cobalt, and there's this guy.
Well, that's why you were going to kill yourself, because you had a cobalt.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that car sucked. But there was this guy with he was a white beard. He was just attractive. I don't know what about it. He started talking to me. I started talking to him. I sat on the bench. I never told him I was whatever. Nothing. I don't even know this guy. According to him, he had no kids, whatever. He was just there. I don't know why he was there, but we talked about weird things. And at the end of it, I felt really enlightened talking to that guy. I felt touched. So touched that I just could not stop crying. He saved me. I don't know why, but I went home that night, and I thought to myself, I was like, what the fuck just happened? And I was hanging with this chick around this time named Nikki, and I went over, I told her the story and everything. She didn't fucking believe me, whatever. From this day, I went from being that person to being kind of this person, to where I went from, why would you kill yourself over the actions of another person?
Right.
You couldn't control that. That was not your fault. I don't know if it was growing up or whatever. From that day forward, I followed God. And from that day forward, I followed Jesus Christ. And from that day forward, I have been blessed. It doesn't even fucking stop.
And do you think that man up there at the point where people have committed suicide, do you think that man was actually there, or was that man in your imagination?
No, that guy was there.
So do you think he was there for that specific reason, to actually talk to people to help them from committing suicide?
No, I just think that for that day, I was lucky. And if that guy was there by coincidence, I was lucky. Whether it's luck or fate, remember, it states in the Bible very clearly, God gives you life, thou shalt not take it away.
Well, one thing I will say about that is, unless you're talking to like...
There we go. I remembered it. The book of Judah. The book of Judah has been removed from the Bible. You start talking about suicide. There we go. Bam!
So the Bible in the Old Testament, which Jesus endorses those laws, it does also... Have you ever
read the book of Judah?
Sorry?
Have you ever read the book of Judah?
No, I haven't actually. Judah.
No. Yes.
I'm going to write that so I don't forget this. Book of Judah.
The guy who betrayed Jesus. They took it out of the Bible. Because he betrayed Jesus and he felt so bad. What did he do? Killed himself.
Mm-hmm.
God forgave him. And they took it out of Christianity because in the Bible it states, God gives life, thou shalt not take it away. And that's a really hard thing because I want to explain life. That is unbelievable if you can imagine that. You have the fortune to be here to talk to me. And I have the fortune to be here to talk to you. I wasn't killed, slayed, murdered, nothing.
Yeah, no, I feel extremely lucky based on the how lucky it is to be alive.
How easy is it to get weed in Canada right now?
Oh, very easy.
Okay.
You can walk to a store right now and just get it.
Can you smoke weed and go to your job?
I think a lot of jobs.
Like, do you get drug tested for it?
I think there are quite a few jobs that would test you for it, depending on what you're doing. If you're operating heavy machinery, definitely. If you're driving any kind of vehicle,
alcohol. You want that guy fucking hammered?
No, they don't. They don't. Yeah, that's zero tolerance. And same with marijuana now. They're zero tolerance in driving with marijuana in your system as well. I think it's zero tolerance. There might be a small amount you're allowed, but I'm not sure. Because
what about for your job?
Well, I'm a writer and a YouTube personality, and
wonderful.
You know, that's what I do.
Can I give you a challenge? Something that I think you should try.
Sure.
One time in your life, you can give it up, because I tell you what, if you give it up, no fucking problem. Smoke weed every day for the next year. All day. No, listen. All day. Every day. I'm talking like 6, 7, 8, 9 times a day till your fucking eyes pop out. I'm telling you, there will be things that will come to you you'll never realize. Listen, I'm telling you, it's possible. I've been smoking weed right now since I've been 16. I'm 27. Been smoking weed for 11 years fucking straight. Every day, all day.
Do you think it's affected your cognitive abilities in a negative way at all?
Well, it depends on... So, I've been smoking for so long that it does affect your cognitive abilities if you're fucking baked.
Right.
If you're coming down from weed, you're even more fucked. So those who utilize dabs and edibles are those who shouldn't drive a car.
Mm.
Those who smoke weed, you don't really have to worry about those people, because for me, like right now, I'm drunk and high. I'm not like, I could drive a car right now, but I'm not going to. I'm just saying, if I were to pop a dab right now and do a dab, I'd be throwing up all over the fucking bathroom, begging to call 911.
Pardon my ignorance. What is a dab?
A dab is concentrated marijuana.
Oh, okay.
So like wax, shatter, oil, whatever you call it.
Yeah, that's the term I know.
Yeah. Even though it should be oil, but
well, I know BC, like BC bud, British Columbia bud. That's where I live. Is considered like some of the best on the planet.
Because I've been sober, I've been high, I've been sober, been high. I drink alcohol here and there. I just got a new job, so I decided to fucking waste it and go on Omegle and just add on, talk some shit to people. But then you came, which is fucking cool. So, like me, I smoke weed every day, and I do it all the time. But when I go to work, so I fall asleep, it's 8 hours. I wake up, I don't smoke any weed. I go another 8 hours. There's 16, whatever. And then I get off of work. I go another 4 or 5 hours. I smoke like 3 or 4 rippers. I'm fucking waxed. And that's a term maybe you'll understand someday.